excited everyone is here. This is a community conversation to get together and talk about what are the current resources in the community, what are some of the current issues that the people are experiencing, and concerns from the residents and businesses. So it's going to be sort of a little bit of give and take. I want to start with our the panel of experts who we've invited. There is a Xavier focus because of our Xavier student neighbors who are with us. And so for folks watching at home, that's why there's going to be a lot of that. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with, are you good? A little bit about what's happening in Ward 2.
All right, Mark Vickers. I'm lieutenant with the Norwood Police Department. I am currently assigned as the patrol commander for the Uniform Division. We're here to obviously represent the city of Norwood. We have a vested interest in the city of Norwood because of our citizens. We know that the Xavier students come in for short periods of time and then they're out and they come back kind of deal. Having history and knowing what goes on during the school year, we partnered up again with Xavier University Police Department and the university itself to address some of the issues that are common nuisances to the Norwood citizens. Those being the loud parties, the disorderly conduct, public urination, and open containers. So that's being our focus. We've dubbed our joint patrol this year as the Stop It Before It Starts. So we're going to have a focus on the weekends, time zones of dealing with those issues, where we will be assigning a Norwood officer and a Xavier officer. That's going to be their main focus down in the south end of the city, addressing those issues, bringing some resolve to the citizens of Norwood. And maybe it's some Xavier students that don't like all that chaos and dysfunction that goes on. So that's going to be our main focus. We've worked well with Lieutenant Fuller and his team in the university in the past, and we're going to be doing it for several weekends and on other specific dates that we know that are typically good party weekends. But in the past, we have gone out proactively and made contact with the students at the particular houses, and we've had good conversation, and we've had good resolve in preventing a lot of things from happening by taking that extra step. And that's what we look forward to in working with the joint partnership with the city of Norwood and the university. We understand the college students want to have fun. We're not opposed to having fun, but they have to be responsible, and we're going to hold them accountable and responsible. So anytime that we have contact with a Xavier student, we will be calling Xavier PD in to assist us. They can collect the information. We will handle whatever the situation is at that point in time, and we'll handle it through our mayor's court if it's something that is citable, but officers still have discretion. So every person that we have contact with may not receive a citation. This is more about educating the people how you should be in society. So, and that's the focus and the way that we're approaching it. With me here tonight is School Resource Officer Robert Town. He is the resource officer for the entire City of Norwood School District. He travels to all the schools. He is based out of the high school. So he's here to talk about school safety things, if anybody has any questions about school safety. We have Officer Max Murphy with us. He's our patrol officer, and he's also one of the officers assigned to the community outreach for the wards in the council. A very active officer in the department, one of the best that we have. So if you have any questions for them as far as particular what do they do on a daily basis, what, kind of interactions and things, please feel free to ask any of the questions. And I guess we can open it up from there. I'll introduce Lieutenant Fuller from Xavier Police Department. We work closely with him and the other staff at the university. And the university officials here, they can go ahead and introduce themselves, and then we'll just open it up, I guess, for any questions that you may have. So.
Great, thank you. So do you want to say more? Okay, so I'm Molly Dugan. I'm the Director of Student Integrity in the Dean of Students Office. So when my lovely colleague Adrian and our friends at Norwood PD encounter a student, I get those reports and we manage that process through our conduct system. I also often hear from neighbors, so you might you might know of an issue with students happening and want to let us know, and so that can come to our office, Dean of Students, and I'm happy to give my cards out. I found it in my work bag when I brought it. And then, we try to be somewhat proactive. So just because a neighbor complains doesn't mean a student's going to automatically go through the conduct process, but often it's Adrienne and I will go knock on their door and say, hey, can we talk about this, and have some conversation with them to help them learn from interactions and experiences. So I do.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dr. Erica J. I work at Xavier. I'm new. But I am really excited to be part of this process. I do appreciate that there's this focus on being proactive and focus on education. I want to support that. I'm not dealing with that aspect of it as much. I'm thinking more about helping students understand what it means to be a good neighbor. And that's kind of the education push that I want to start from our office. But I am definitely supporting Dr. Molly Dugan, whatever she's doing, and I want to be a good neighbor. So if there's something that I can do, you think would be proactive and helpful, I'm definitely open to that. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for having me today.
I think the only thing that I'll follow up on that point is what you may not be aware is that some of our students have become proactive in return as well. I know very, very frequently they have these events that are repetitive. There's a culture of, well, who's going to host this event this year or next year? The pig roast, the 9 holes, the Pong Madness. And what we try to do with these students is create a legacy where they'll reach out to us and say, how can we host this party safely? Cool, here's what you're going to do. And when they do that, the party most of the time goes off without a hitch. Tell the people throwing that next year to come to us. And sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But we find that when the students are reciprocal in that proactiveness, we really have a higher degree of success of them having a function that's entertaining for them, where they don't have to have Norwood Police or Xavier Police respond. So following up also on Molly's comment, I did not bring business cards. They're actually in my body armor, and I forgot. I don't know why I don't carry them on me more often. But I am another resource for the residents here or residents that you may talk to back in your communities to come to us with, non-emergency concerns about anything Xavier related, particularly our population within your areas. So, okay. Thank you.
I would love it if our guests would like to introduce themselves, and if you are a neighbor or a business, and what some of the things you're aware of, some of the challenges you have, or some of the things that you feel are going really well. We always like to hear that too.
Good morning. I'm Riley L. I'm the CEO of Research Recovery. We are a drug treatment, mental health treatment facility right up on Montgomery Road, kind of on the outskirts there. I've only been in the role 6 weeks. My wife and I though lived in Pleasant Ridge for a long time, a while ago. So I'm getting reacquainted with Norwood. We spent a lot of time in Norwood when we lived in Pleasant Ridge, because there wasn't a whole lot there at that time. It's a little different these days. So I'm just trying to get to better understand the community and how ultimately we can help the community.
Hi, I'm Kira Nicole. I currently do marketing and events at Kathy's on Plenty. So we certainly are familiar with college students. I'm also a Xavier grad, former Norwood resident, and worked in Catholic schools on and off over the years, in community ministries, community service coordinating. So kind of just came to listen to the conversation, hear what this was about. Sounds like it's very relevant to us, this topic. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Colton Bart. I'm an engineer at GE. I've been in Norwood for 2 years now. Haven't been at GE that long, but I'm just trying to be a bit more active civically, be more active in the community, and just, kind of learn more about what's going on and what some of the issues are.
I'm Annie. I'm with Bradley here with Research Recovery. So I'm the court liaison for Research Recovery. So I work specifically with those who get in trouble with the law. So, yeah, we're just here to help and learn more about it. So thank you for having us.
I am Gemma Black. I am a neighbor of the Xavier students, live on Hudson Avenue. Moved in 2018 and just happy to learn more about what's going on in the area.
Hi everybody, I'm Aaron Hammonds. I live with this lovely woman on Hudson. I'm mostly just here today to start to get engaged with some of the Civic Norwood stuff for the first time since we've been here for 5 years. Feels like it's about time. Lovely to meet you all.
We're glad you're here. Thank you. I know one of the things, and that maybe kind of open it up to some of the resident folks, what have you been seeing in terms of student, neighbor, and the doors open and close? Oh, that's fun. That'll be fun.
It's a ghost.
I'm curious what your experiences have been both with the homeowners and some of the student renters. If there's been a shift over the years, one direction or the other, some good experiences, some not good experiences. Would love to hear what's been working, what's not been working. No pressure.
Have you seen an increase or decrease in the student activity when it comes to the large parties, the amount of traffic, and things like that over the time that you've been there?
I think it's been a little bit of a decrease. I mean, there was like a bit, it's like, since we moved in pre-COVID, and like COVID happened, there was obviously
Yeah.
changed then, and then so like ramped back up, but then I feel like recently, at least, it doesn't seem like parties are going as late, because they like shut them down, or at least we take them inside, as the escalators, that's been.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like we've had many problems the whole time we've been here. I mean, aside from a couple instances, like some kids across the street still shouting, carrying on, like during the morning, like once.
Have you found them respectful to engage with?
Yeah.
Or in a way they move through the neighborhood?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
They love our cat.
There's two things that college students love, it's animals and food. So if you can provide either one of those.
I wanted to share an email that I got from a family who wasn't able to come. They live over on Regent. She says, we've appreciated the increased patrols last year. It seemed to cut down on the open containers, some of the noise and yard trash. I hope that continues this year as we are starting to see an uptick in noise and trash now that students are coming back. We'd like to see a more proactive approach, and I love this after our conversation. Keep noise down. And this is not for just students, but anyone playing loud music. It would be nice if, while out patrolling, verbal warnings would be given to people with the music too loud, or if there's a lot of yelling or loud games. I know there's a 24-hour noise ordinance, but it would be nice if there was a time of night, like 10 p.m., where enforcement would ramp up so that people don't have to get woken up. So I think that's fantastic, because that's exactly what you guys are doing. So it's like you read this.
And maybe it's helpful, can you talk a little, I have an understanding, but I don't know if it's for you, of like when, particularly like at the party, when you might knock on the door, when you might be like.
Yeah, we try and be proactive throughout our patrols. So we encourage our officers to make contact with the residents that are hosting these parties. They're out on patrol, they can see the crowd start gathering, getting larger, things like that. And we encourage our officers to make contact with them and to address the issues with them and say, hey, try and keep it down, keep it under control, and, work with them the best that we can. We do have a disorderly house ordinance here in Norwood, okay? The way that it works, and it starts over at the beginning of every school year, okay? So it's not something that continuously runs with that house, okay? Because each year, the students change typically. So if we get dispatched to a complaint of a disorderly house, again, the officers that are responding, they'll make the determination at that point in time, does it meet the criteria of the ordinance, okay? Now, we know that we get a lot of calls and legit calls from residents of small groups of people on the porch, drinking, being loud, okay? We typically do not label them as disorderly houses, okay? What we look at, do we have 20, 30, 40, sometimes even 300 students at a location, sometimes even more than that? Those automatically would fall into that category when you have those large numbers, because you have all those students doing things that they shouldn't be doing because there's not enough restroom facilities for them. So they're peeing in the bushes of the neighbors next door, 2 houses down, 3 houses down, next to cars on the street. Those are the things, and when we were encountering those, so we would address that house, we would identify the people who are renting, residing there. Their information would be collected, it would be put into our record system, and they would be given a formal warning of disorderly house. Everyone gets a warning, okay? Any subsequent return calls to that residence during that school year, they are subject to arrest, okay? It's a misdemeanor of the 4th degree. However, it can be handled by citation, okay? And that's typically how we handle it. We would make contact with those students, whether it's 5, 6, 8 students residing there, they would all receive a citation for the disorderly house ordinance. They would be summoned to mayor's court. The magistrate would then obviously hear the case and deal with it as they see fit on their end. So that's the process for the disorderly house. Again, keep in mind, not every call that we get for a house party ends up with a warrant. It's going to depend on what's going on at that moment in time when the officers arrive. Again, I understand that everybody is offended in different ways at different times. So we have to take that into consideration, okay? And we rely upon our officers. Our officers are very well trained. Our officers are very engaged in the community. But they also know that we're here for a reason, okay? We are here to make sure that there is peace and security in the neighborhoods, okay? So we're going to take the proper action that is needed at that point in time. If we can handle it without a citation or arrest, then we will handle it that way. But we will not shy away from issuing a citation or making an arrest if that's perceived course of action, okay? So the disorderly house, just to sum it up, everybody gets a warning. Now, with that being said, if it is a large party, and sometimes these parties do get way out of control really fast, we will take it upon ourselves and we will shut that party down. Period. We will force the students out and send them on their way. Go somewhere, but not here.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If there is underage, what happens?
It depends upon the amount of people that we have to deal with. You have to keep in mind safety of officers, okay? When you're dealing with large crowds, say if it's a crowd of 300 or more, we typically, when we operate our shifts, we operate with night shift with 5 officers, day shift with 6 officers. We also will call in Xavier to assist us on any calls that deal with Xavier students. So depending on how many officers they have on, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, we also have what's called mutual aid through the Hamilton County, okay? So we have signed agreements with all law enforcement agencies in Hamilton County where we can have cross jurisdiction. So if our agency calls for assistance, those agencies that have officers available will send them to our location. And likewise, if they have an incident occur in their jurisdiction and they need officers, we respond to them as well. So it's mutual aid. It's a working cooperation with all law enforcement entities in Hamilton County. It's the same thing with the fire division. So it spreads the resources, you know, because not every community has 1,000 officers like Cincinnati, okay? they have a lot more resources, a lot more manpower to handle, where we're a smaller, we're 3.1 square miles, So depending on the size of what goes on, particularly with underage, we will handle those accordingly with what is going on. A lot of it's going to depend upon their intoxication level, okay? So if it's somebody who is able to still walk and talk, we will address that, and we will probably defer a lot of that to Xavier and let them handle that student, okay? If it's to the point where the student can't care for themselves, then we obviously have an obligation that we would take that person into protective custody, and we would charge them with disorderly conduct and underage consumption, okay? And that would be a county charge, all right? So again, depending upon if they need to go to the hospital, we would get them the medical treatment they need, or we get them where they speak out.
Yeah, so I mean, part of the role, we, in our, in Ohio, the school regional officers that we get in a lot of times. And we talk a lot about that. We're a police officer, but we're also a teacher at the time. We'll be classes and what I think. We do a lot of that stuff, safety training, drugs and alcohol, preventing national branding. A lot of SROs are, care is not as big as it used to be, but there are still a lot of care officers. I haven't been that full training yet, but it's still something we do quite a bit. And then there's a lot of just, like even last year, some of the classes we were doing, like a science study on how to figure out like the physics of the car route, how they do the safety goal, they can slow down to the whole. But so there's a lot of like educational resources that happen to all this sort of nice company to do other.
One of the things that was recently brought up at a council meeting was writing, particularly gardening, and I'm wondering if it's seen the in the world community.
Now, Norwood does not have a gun violence problem with you. Here, we don't. I've been with the department for 15 years. I've been in this unique area for 26 years. Well, 4 years in Xavier University, prior coming in. But this that I'm in now, I review all the activities that occur in the city that are reported by our office. On a daily basis, I go through and I review every single run that the officers make. Do we have at times gun issues? We do. Every year we have. But we do not have a gun violence problem. Yeah, and we owe that to the officers being very proactive and they're engaging in people who not our city, to give you a general concept, again, 3.1 square miles, our call volume was more up close to 60,000 calls for service already a year. Think of our size. That's a lot of calls of police service. Okay, that incorporates everything from barking dogs all the way to reported robbery in progress or anything. That's the call. So when you look at the grand scale of things, the very cusp of the community, we are very active. A good portion of those calls are what we call OIA, officer initiated activity. Our officers are very proactive. They're out in the community, they're making traffic stops, making subject stops, they're doing consensual stops. Our officers are highly trained. So, for instance, night shift officers, out of control. If they see someone in an area They know that particular time, where they're located. Is that normal or not normal? If it's a not normal, our officers are making contact with that. That's what we call a position contact. The officer will get out, hey, what's going on tonight? Have a conversation, start getting a read of what's going on. You know, are there other elements there? Okay. We do have an uptick right now in the death of automobiles and death from autos. We're not the only ones. This is a county-wide problem. Blue Edge was in several weeks ago in a 2 or 3 night stay. They had upwards of 70 cars that were either drove into, some was stolen. Okay. I can give you a little bit of our raw data. We just went back and did a 3-month pool of data. We've had 51 offenses in 3 months. That combines theft of autos, and theft from autos, and attempted auto theft, and attempted theft from autos. That's a high number for our location. So we are in the process of putting together the impact to go out and address this. Other communities are doing the same. So it's not just isolated from us, it's countywide. And unfortunately, everybody's feeling it right now. One of the big things, obviously, schools starting back in session, not only the local schools, but the university. High number of automobiles are now back in centralized locations. We experienced an uptick last year at one of the lots associated with Xavier. We were very proactive in it. We worked and partnered with Xavier and tried to address the situation. You've all heard it before. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can sit here and punch all the numbers you want, but there's no way for us to actually know when they're going to come commit these offenses. So we try and increase our office by crunching numbers and saying, okay, the high probability may be here. And so that's how we start our portion of trying to combat this. So we take that data, we look at it and say, okay, well, let's start here. Now, we may have to shift it here, flex over here, move it from here to here, that kind of thing. But there's really no particular area. We do know that the problem will be increased activity at this particular lot of Xavier. It's just a hotbed. It's so much going down in one location. But we are being proactive. We are taking steps to combat that. Again, it's a 10-mouse game. You in there at the right time when it's occurs. You'll be able to take that. So,
President, do you have suggestions for residents, for best ways to protect them?
lock the car. The easiest is to lock the car. We do not have a lot of window breaking anymore. And the reason being, they don't want to draw attention to themselves. When they pop a window, it's loud. Okay? And the other aspect of that kind of goes back to a lot of people carry guns now. So what do you think a homeowner is going to do when they hear something? If they're a gun owner. So that's why the criminals don't want to make that noise. They don't want to take that chance of encountering somebody. Okay? So that's why they target cars that are unlocked. The other big thing, don't leave valuables in the car. It's crimes of opportunity. They walk by, they see something, the car's unlocked, they're going to take it. So make sure that you're taking items out of the car. One of the biggest things that we see is people leaving their guns in their car. That's poor ownership, and that's not being a responsible gun owner. Leaving your gun in your car, that's a big no-no. But it happens all the time.
I know there was just recently a robbery where someone broke into the car and got a gun out of the vehicle. Does the police department still have gun locks available?
We do. We do. We have gun locks available. Anybody can come into the police department, come up to the window, and our officers or the clerk will be more than happy to give you a gun lock. We have plenty of them. But the big thing is lock your car doors. Don't leave your keys or key fob in the car. You know, you would be amazed at how many people leave their keys and key fob in their car out on the street. Do you have anything you want to add, reference the aspect of the students?
We've done the same thing with our students as Lieutenant Vickers alluded to. Now we have 2,000 cars in a central location. And just since our students have returned, this being day 3 in classes, day 6, and then living back on campus, we've conducted over 15 record controls of our lots. We call these things out, they're recorded in software so we can track when, where our officers are if a crime spree were to occur. It's a matter of time. You said cat and mouse, you know, police cars are easy to see, they're in the woods. Car leaks a lot, they know they've got a couple of minutes, but we've got some really great prevention strategies and messaging. We got out to echo that. Lock your cars, and like we see this so much with students. Don't keep your spare key somewhere on the car, like in the magnetic field well. It's not a good solution. Or with the fob, actually, it's the second fob in the glove box. And what we see the most is cars that being left unlocked. Our students, arguably many of them come from safer neighborhoods where locking their cars or even their homes isn't at the top of the list of priorities for them. I cannot fathom that. I live in Deer Park. Deer Park is wonderful. I would never leave my front door unlocked for my cars. So if we can get that messaging across to them, we try through various systems on campus, that's going to reduce the opportunity that these have as they're walking through our lots doing this on the board games. So we have other messaging and we've given us some other tips like that, but that is so key. Lock the car and nothing desirable in the car. What is worth?
Another question I sort of have in general is where do people seem to see overcross between where homeowners and your student renters might be interacting? Are you aware of spaces that exists? I know on my street, I live right in the heart of Xavier student housing. And to answer your question, I think the last couple of years have been significantly better with 1 or 2 impressive blips up. But overall, the trend I feel is we're getting this, the students are being more respectful about space and noise. I know years ago, and I love to tell this story, there were a group of boys living in an apartment on our street. And my boys would throw footballs with them and have water gun fights. And it was a really lovely relationship. And now they're, that was been 15, 20 years ago now. I'm wondering if folks are having good interactions with the students that are deeper than the just hi. Is that good enough? Are there ways that you would like to deepen those relationships? That's just sort of a general question.
It's more just like a general hi, or if like they see our cat, or my cat might be at one of the other houses, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, yeah, that's my cat. He's a little bit of he's a dude cat.
He's looking for friends.
He's a cat now. So, but yeah,
He has a need for attention that we just can't fulfill for him by ourselves.
I'm sure he's neglected, is what I'm hearing.
completely. But yeah, no, it's just been. I feel like haven't really had many issues at all. But also, I feel like we're pretty chill people in general,
Yeah,
so.
we're not really bothered by them throwing parties in the front lawn until, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night or so.
I'm curious about Kathy's.
I actually think, this is something that our owners and I have had a lot of conversations about, in terms of, we have a lot of overlap. We have a lot of students who, spend time at our spot, and we have a lot of community members. And so I think, that is certainly something that is front of mind for me, is how can we as a business help facilitate those positive, healthy relationships. On a personal note, I grew up in Oxford, Ohio, and I grew up next door to a frat house. So I also have some maybe personal experience, what it's like to, resident and live next door to college students who party really hard. And so, I mean, that's certainly something that we've been talking a lot about. I think generally, for the most part, the only feedback we get from community members who are hanging out there is, man, these kids make me feel old.
Well, that's
but
true.
I like that's the takeaway, as opposed to like, wow, these kids are disrespectful, or they're annoying, or they're, not doing these things that I know, So, but I think that's one of our questions, and something that I'm certainly eager to help perpetuate doing events there, is how do we help to strengthen that? How do we support that within our community? Both to benefit residents and also to benefit students, because I think Xavier is a community that really, and this is what really cares about educating students, not just in terms of academics, but in terms of life skills. Your point about students maybe coming from neighborhoods that are a little bit different, like how can we support that? How can we facilitate that? How can we? I would really like to. I think, in my opinion, I think we are, and I would like to just further strengthen that to people who kind of can lead that and really become a place where everyone can come together and can get along, and those relationships strengthen in a healthy, legal, respectful, safe way. All of those things. I mean, that's kind of.
I know Kathy's was doing the cleanup down Flinney.
Yeah.
Is that still happening, or is it
We
to the
haven't
break?
been doing it over the summer because there's not as
A
much
need.
of a need for
Which
it,
is
I
lovely.
think speaks to the fact that where that comes from. We've talked about bringing that back. The thing with that is it's really the same four people who walk and clean up. Although we do have a group of GE employees who have started using their service days to come and just like walk Flinney and pick up. It's on Wednesdays. And we have trash grabbers, and we give them trash bags, and then we thank them with a pizza, and we give them $1 off their beer when they get back as a thanks for keeping this place clean. But yeah, and we're trying to do more community events, more fundraising events, more things like that in general, and I think that's helping with that as well.
We can push that out, and I can also assign it to people as a like.
Oh, I like
the problem.
I like
So
that
you
actually
go
a lot.
on Wednesday, and here's the
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely.
So I often assign them to community service direct, but this would be a really great option as well.
Especially if they get pizza.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's a little late.
Well, I don't know if it's a punishment. I don't know if it's
I know.
Yeah.
But like I think helping with the
Yeah, absolutely.
trash pickup.
Yeah.
So I'll.
That's
Yeah,
in
in general, they should.
And I've reached out to is Shannon Hughes. Did she just leave?
Monday was her last day.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had reached out to her
Yeah.
about potentially even partnering with any alternative breaks trips that have to do with environmentalism and
Yeah.
sustainability, and maybe that's a way to tie in that type
Yeah.
of cleanup
We
in the
also have
neighborhood.
like a whole committee right now
Okay.
that's doing because of like public access needs.
Yep.
That.
Yeah. Stewardship of the earth.
Thank you.
talk.
Yeah. We'll talk. I'm like, it's last. Okay, I don't know.
So,
Another quick trash
echoing this
question.
collaboration, sorry, just real
No, go
quick
ahead.
before we change subject. Echoing this collaboration, my first career was as a professional chef.
Okay.
I have determined as XUPD specifically and XU at large, as we try to engage our students
Yep.
more and more often. Where we are missing the boat is our commuter students.
Yes.
So you being situated right where you are, if there's a partnership or an event-based thing that we can do where we could bring food or professional cooking skills, we don't need licensure because we're not spending money, we're not charging money or anything. We have a community engagement budget specifically targeted towards food. I would love to be able to further engage our students in the south end of Norwood as they're walking to and from or coming to Cappy's as an event-based kind of thing.
That would be great.
Perfect. And we even have, if it became a Cappy's at the Plaza lot or that sort of thing, we would be even open to some kind of function like that.
Okay.
So I'd give you my card, but
I have one. I'll give you mine.
perfect. And I'll shoot you an email tomorrow so we can have that back and forth.
Perfect.
Not to supersede anything else, but
Yeah.
that's something we've been so successful with. They don't expect a police officer to be slinging hot dogs and hamburgers.
But they love it when that
They
happens.
love
I know.
So we've had such an impact on them that way. I'd love to be able to target commuter students that way.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that idea, and I want to talk about that with you later too. So I want to get in on that.
So in reference to the trash, and you guys going out and if we commend you for doing it, we appreciate that. There's also, I know, a church organization that was doing it also last year. That was coming into the south end and cleaning up and picking up the trash, and we appreciated that. But within the past several years, the city of Norwood actually passed a new ordinance to address the college students leaving their trash from the parties the night before in their yard. So we have a legal means of addressing that if it becomes a persistent issue where we can issue a citation for that. So we strongly encourage them, again, when we're on patrol, we can see what happened last night and we go up, make contact with them and say, hey, you might want to try and have this cleaned up by 1 o'clock.
Well, that's
So
great.
that's
too, because while I think we want to make sure our immediate vicinity is clean and presentable, what I don't want is to create this expectation that we are gonna come and clean up your party trash.
Right.
To me, that's just enabling.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that was just part of why it was on a Wednesday too, is that it's not like we're going out Sunday morning after your day party and we're gonna pick
And
up all
typically
of your-
what we will do, we will go out Sunday morning and we will try and give them an early wake-up call. And just let them know, hey, you got a lot of stuff you need to take care of here.
How often have you been doing it? Because that was going to be my question is, I will do the C-click fix myself if I see a pile of cans, but that doesn't get into the system until Monday. So what is your...
Well, again, I mean, it's just done randomly when the officers are on patrol. So typically, if it was a busy Friday, Saturday night, then on Sunday, the officers, if they see a large trash area, we encourage them to go up and make contact and have them clean it up. And then the officer would come back later in the shift to see if it's been done or not. And if it hadn't been done, then they can issue the citation.
So a resident can't quite report that. They can still do C-click fix, but the officer wouldn't see that. It's just if they're driving up and down and see it and happen to have the time, then they'll address it.
Correct, yeah. When you're talking about C-click fix, the way the program works, depending upon what it is that they're reporting, it goes to that department. So if it's something related to parking issues, obviously it comes to the police department. If it's related to trash issues, it more than likely will either go to the health department or the public works department, depending on where the trash is located. So again, there is a bit of a time delay because those departments only work Monday through Friday as to where we work 24/7. So I am constantly getting the notifies for the parking complaints and things that pertain to the police. And I disseminate those out respectively to either the shift supervisors or to our auxiliary officers who handle our parking enforcement. So they're addressed in a very timely manner when we receive them. And then we do put a response back in there so whoever submitted it can see where we're at with it. We just don't let it sit there. We address it and we're constantly active on it. I can't speak for the other departments, because their manpower is a little bit different, their setup is a little bit different. But that's the way See Click Fix works. So potholes, traffic lights out, things like that, those go to Public Works. Trash issues go to the Health Department. They're the ones responsible for that. Tall grass, Health Department.
Thank you. Are there ways that businesses, I really love Cappy's, and how you are a part of the community, and I appreciate that Research Recovery is new to Norwood and wanting to be a part of the community. Are there things that you would be helpful for you as a business, things that you're aware of, that you're concerned about, questions you have?
I was just thinking with the start of school, especially with Xavier, do you all see, I did most of my career in Clifton. So at the start of the school year, we would see a lot of folks coming in looking for treatment. Drug treatment, either they were court ordered to, or mom and dad had found out whatever about their son or daughter, and they were now in front of us looking for some kind of counseling. Being new to Norwood, being new to Xavier, do you all tend to see an uptick in substance use, substance-related crimes or offenses around this time of year, or is there not much of a correlation there at all?
I think, so there's uptake truly largely because most of our population, we are working to become more of a year-round campus, but we're not. Our students mostly are not here in the summer, so when they come back, we're like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
A couple things I'll say about and chime in, but trends we've seen, and I don't have good solid numbers because a lot of it is we hear our counselors here, so we don't actually have a report, but through the grapevine, is we've seen an uptick in harder drug use, so specifically cocaine, not so much fentanyl with our students, it's a lot of cocaine use.
Agreed.
And then there's still real big fans of marijuana, which we have the challenge of it's legal in Ohio and it's against policy, it's not legal federally. And so we are going to start doing more our well-being services folks are going to start some proactive on education around some of that and cessation and if you are trying to stop using help. So I think I think there is an uptick. I wouldn't say we have a large number of students who are I need treatment. We might be saying we need treatment. But I'd be interested in getting, all recovery. The other half of the new student office is our care management team. So they often do some referrals when we don't have the resources on campus. Sure. And we need to refer students out. I don't know, would you add anything to?
I think the far greater issue, and this faces all higher education institutions, it isn't really substance abuse, it's mental health. Yeah. So anybody that's well versed in the field knows that most mental health issues develop and present themselves in ages of 18 to 22 years of age. That's exactly our population. Couple that with the stresses of being away from home for the first time. Maybe they're coming with undiagnosed mental health issues. Adding the stress of the academics as the year winds on, I find that to be a far larger issue than traditional substance use. And my wife actually works in mental health in Claremont County, working for a very similar model to yours, I would believe. Sure. So while is it there? Absolutely. Course, yeah. Are students struggling with it? Absolutely, at every institution. But our far larger concern, and especially on the team that she chairs, is helping students to cope with the emergence of a mental health issue in their life. Sure. So far greater issue for Xavier specifically. Okay. So, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I also want to make sure everyone gets their questions answered and feel that they got what they came for. with some of that just being, I just wanted to find out what was going on. One of my questions is, where are you guys getting your information about what's happening in Norwood? Because that's been an ongoing challenge for us. So how'd you hear about this meeting?
Saw a flyer at the Norwood Cider Company.
Yeah. It tends to.
Excuse me.
Bless you. It tends to be a paper that we get our information about Norwood from. We didn't know that we had to pay city tax to Norwood until we got the flyer in the mail last year. This year.
Okay, yeah.
This year. Yeah, that was fun.
Oh yeah, sorry about that, but thank you. I mean, you get it, but you just pay it to us instead of Cincinnati. So I mean,
I had a flyer show up on my desk.
that's
So,
okay.
I guess one question though with that is, were flyers passed out to Xavier's? Like, I would think it would be real. I would love to see Xavier students had a conversation.
Yes.
When we
And so I
took these-
assume yes.
When
but
we
I-
took these around, the other pile of handouts was the invitation, and we
Okay.
said to all of them, and Norwood Public website, you
Yeah.
board meeting. I would
And it's tough for that too. I do understand.
93.
I also wonder about the location.
Yeah.
We could not come up with a location in that part of Norwood that would be big enough and open,
I mean, I
except
wonder-
potentially Cappy's, and I thought that was
Which seems like an
21.
odd spot for, right, I feel like it needs to be open to anyone.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, wow.
Well, I mean, I think if you wanted,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
we,
that
I'd
was-
love to talk about that if you're interested in that,
Yeah.
but absolutely.
A 21 and over meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Well,
have,
the off-campus students are typically in their years, so
Yeah.
there would be.
Most
Oh.
of them would be.
Most of them.
That's helpful.
No.
Thank you.
we also have resources available. Meeting space
Yeah.
is not an issue at Xavier.
Xavier hosts.
So
Well, I
we
think-
have spaces in
well-
buildings adjacent to Norwood.
It's trying to get that combination of residents,
Yeah.
of homeowners and
Yeah.
Xavier students. And it's important to me that I consider Xavier students residents,
Yeah.
because while they're in Norwood,
are.
they're residents. And I want them to feel part of the community while they're here. And in being so, that means, being a good neighbor and saying hi and not peeing in my front yard. And that's part of it. So I want them to have both the benefits and the responsibilities that come with that, with being a part of the community. So, but I want to thank everyone for coming. Everyone I think has my contact information. If you have follow-up questions or concerns, we'll be continuing to do discussions around this. And even though it's a very small group, I love how we've already had a lot of connectivity, and that's what it's all about. So thank you guys for spending a part of your Wednesday evening, and we will see you out there on the roads.
Do you have any other questions about the police department and what we do, how we do things, or anything of the sort?
If I could just give an example.
Oh, please.
Especially piggybacking off of Lieutenant Fuller's idea of getting the students to reciprocate this proactivity. It's been a few years ago, because it was before I went into the school district, but I was patrolling down Plenty. I had some Xavier students flag me down, and they're like, hey, we're having this party/concert tonight. Here's the flyer we put together. It had a very specific, this is the end time. We're trying not to be, too disruptive. They had planned it so that it was all surrounded by Xavier housing and not non-college residences and that sort of thing. And, they had gone to all the neighbors and be like, here's what we're doing. If you have any problems, let us know. They told me to come back if we got any complaints and let them know, and they would shut it down. So I think that's a good example of, obviously we all know that not everyone is a good neighbor, whether on the college side or the long-term resident side. But if we can try to have these neighborly relationships, it does work. So.
And I have heard stories, though, I think the last pig roast, I didn't even know happened. It was so quiet.
Yeah.
So, so it works.
I think that's amazing. I'm thinking back to my time at UC, which was 20 years ago, but there was no conversation like this happening where the college and the police were trying to proactively engage with the students to figure out how they could keep the campus safe and so that students felt like they could flag someone down and say like, hey, here's a flyer for this party we're having. That did not happen. So like whatever this is as an outsider so far seems like it's working.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's
we
special.
strongly, I mean, there's times where we have been very proactive. We see that there's a group gathering. We will go up and find the residents and we will have a conversation with them. And we'll say, hey, listen, have a good time. But when you think it gets out of control, you call us. Don't let someone else call. You call us and we will work with you. And we've gone in and we've shut the parties down for them.
They even called us
Yeah.
apart from Norwood and say, my party has gotten out of control.
Shut
Would
it
you
down.
please
And that's
come
what we
help?
tell
Yeah.
us too.
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
go
absolutely.
out.
Yeah.
Tell us, we'll help.
And 18 years ago when I started, it didn't exist.
That's a special
So
relationship.
this collaboration is something that's just really been driven
Yeah.
by this representatives of this group really, again, being proactive and having that open line of communication and collaboration. So it's pretty cool.
Well, the ultimate goal is obviously to educate them and to teach them the respectfulness of being a good neighbor. But the ultimate is educating them in their safety. Because I'll tell you that when I started in this career at Xavier, we were experiencing a lot of Xavier students being victims of serious crimes at parties. They were having large house parties in an area in Cincinnati, and these people would just come up on the porch and rob them at gunpoint. There were shots fired at different times and things like that. So when somebody hosts a party, I tell Officer Town, he tells Officer Murphy, he tells, she tells, he tells, and instead of them saying, hey, I've only invited 20 people, well, 20 is 200. And now it's out of control. And now you don't know who you're getting. And don't kid yourself if you don't think that there's not going to be people driving by that have no clue as to who these folks are. They're going to see this large number of people, and it's going to be an opportunity for them. They know these people are going to be intoxicated. They see it as an easy mark. And that was what was occurring some 26 years ago. You know, and it got to the point where it was bad. You know, the students were afraid to host parties. You know, we're wanting to prevent those things. We're not oblivious to our geographical location. The city of Norwood is completely surrounded by the city of Cincinnati. Completely. We are a city within a city. Matter of fact, I think we're the only one left in the United States.
No, we're not, but we are the largest city within
Largest
the city.
one?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, 3.14 miles. I mean, just, you know.
I stand corrected. I've been put in my place.
I just love it because it's pride, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, people forget the fact that there's not a protected bubble. Bad things can happen anywhere at any time. And when you put yourself in these vulnerable positions, and they're not thinking about that. We know that. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why we work together, is because we don't want bad things to happen. And along with that, we want to make sure that they're being good stewards in the community. You know, because one day they're going to be just like us. They're going to be old and they're going to be watching television and they can't because the house next door is off the chain.
It will be you.
It will be.
Yeah.
So it's just having those conversations, those open, friendly conversations, not an authoritative type of atmosphere. And I was just saying before we got started here, what we did last year by going out and meeting with several of the properties that were going to host these large events, we convinced them probably not the best thing to do. You really don't want to know what's going to happen to you in the end because it's going to be out of control. You know, I want you to have a good time, but be reasonable about it. And I think, didn't Dana Gardens open up to host it?
Yeah.
So that was a win. That was a win. So if you need to contact me for anything, again, you can call the police department. If you want my card, I'll give you my card. I have mine with me.
Another lesson I missed out.
But feel free to reach out to us. And again, feel free to stop any of the patrol officers you see out on patrol. We're approachable. We're human beings. We're nothing special. We know what we've got to do in the community, and we're proud to do what we do in the community.
We're grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.